Hello, friend. Thanks for pressing play on this episode of the Brassy broadcast. Seriously, I appreciate you choosing to spend a little time with me. If you're new to the show, I'm your host, Jen Eads. I'm a musician, a student of the creative universe, and a curious girl full of questions. I'm also the head broad in charge at the Brassy Broadcasting Company, where I partner with good people of all kinds to put them in the ears, heads, and hearts of new audiences. Yes, I can help you with podcast creation and production, but podcasting is not for everyone, and there are so many other ways that we can incorporate audio into our communication and education strategies. So drop me a line at Jen, Jen, at brassybroad.com if you want to set up a quick 15-minute call to see if I might be able to help you reach the ears, heads, and hearts of your audience. Instagram is my jam, and I'm having so much fun with the filters and the stories and sharing some behind-the-scenes stuff into my music and podcasting world. So you can find me there at BrassyBroadJen. Let's hang out. Now let's get into the fun stuff. Friends, I'm going back to my roots for the next couple episodes of the Brassy broadcast and talking to musicians again. And I'm so excited this week to have Sherry Lynn Lee from the duo 23rd Hour on the show. Sherry Lynn is a singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist from the jazz pop duo 23rd Hour. She writes and performs in English, French, and Mauritian Creole. Her album with 23rd Hour, titled Perfect Strangers, debuted at number 22 on the iTunes bestsellers list for new jazz releases and peaked at number 10 a few days later. I love talking to Sherry Lynn because she lives in that space where, in addition to a music career, she also has a day job that she totally digs and doesn't want to quit to become a full-time musician. I also live in that space, and I'm pretty sure that we aren't the only folks in that neighborhood. We also talk about treating your music career as a business. And even if you aren't a musician, I think you'll dig the business piece of the conversation because it's so universal. We talk about creating an identity, growing an audience on social media, as well as in your own backyard, creating strategic partnerships, and leveraging your success to build momentum. See, all important businessy stuff. Growing your audience online is great, but don't overlook the people in your own backyard when it comes to building that audience. Your friends, neighbors, and coworkers are the ones that will actually come out to your shows, buy your merch, bring their friends, and recommend you to their circle of friends. So don't overlook the opportunity you have to make your show an experience for them. And I want to give a quick shout out to good friend of the show, Ms. Arielle Hyatt at Cyber PR for hooking this conversation up. If you're even thinking just the teeniest bit about crowdfunding your next project, don't start the process until you've listened to my conversation with Arielle all about crowdfunding, and I will have a link to that specific episode in the show notes. Now enjoy my conversation with Sherry Lynn Lee. Sherry Lynn, welcome to the Brassy broadcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited that you could join us, and we have so much to talk about because I love that as a musician that still seems very passionate about the day job that you do, as well as music. I'm looking forward to the insight and perspective that you can provide kind of on how to navigate both of those worlds and what happens and what we can take from our professional life and our music life and kind of interweave that into these lives that we walk, because I feel like most of us are not professional full-time musicians all the time. I know, for example, I still have a day job that I'm super fired up about, but that music piece is such a big outlet of creativity for me. So I'm excited to see where this conversation goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know you have taken, in your music, you guys have really taken a business approach to it, which I think is so important, that as a musician and a creative human being, sometimes it feels a little counterintuitive and maybe kind of hurts our little sensitive creative egos to think of our music as a commodity or a product. But I think based on the current state of the music industry, that's kind of how we need to view that.
Yeah. And actually, I mean, if you think about anything that you like, whether it's a car or food or a shampoo, they're all
Mhm.
products. I mean,
Exactly.
why wouldn't you like music just like you like other things? Why is that different?
Well, because we made that. I made that.
Well,
So it's
yes,
already
but
special.
it is definitely special. But I think, um, I guess what I'm trying to say is that there are brands of quote unquote products out there that are not necessarily affiliated with art, but that people resonate with, right? Like, um, why is that? Why do you feel like certain products are, just commodities versus some other products like people are totally psyched about, like, I don't know, iPhones.
Right. I think that's it. Well, but you know what? Like, you're so right. Like, Mac people and, iPhone users, like, we are like, why would you have anything other than a Mac or an iPhone?
Right. And it's a product. And
Yeah.
why is it that it resonates so much with people? And how can we use that to make our music be the next Mac?
I like it. I like how you're thinking. How how have you guys created your identity as artists around your music and your brand?
Well, let's go back to the beginning where we started playing together. So I moved to the Bay Area in 2013 and I didn't know anybody. I came here for my day job. And the first thing I do whenever I move to a new city is find musicians to play with. So I go to a coffee house and I see George playing. So I went up to him and said, "Hey, would you like to collaborate with me?" And he lied and said yes. And I mean, it didn't seem like we had anything in common.
Hmm.
I'm this 20 something who just moved here and starting my career. He is a lot older than I am. He's been around. He's done a lot of bands, and he was kind of done with that.
Hmm.
And he's into the jazz stuff. I was playing my singer songwriter pop stuff, so it seemed like that we had nothing in common. And but he was intrigued, so he said, "Sure, why not?" And we get together. We have nothing in common. He knows all the jazz standards, all the classic rock, and I know 90s onwards.
Uh-huh.
And after 2 hours, we found a few songs that we both knew and we played together and we started learning each other's songs and kind of improvising on each other's songs. And we liked how it sounded. So the next week, we went to the open mic and we played together. And at the end of that performance, somebody came up to us and said, "Hey, I host a house concert. Would you guys like to play at my house concert, the two of you?" And we're like, "Okay."
Uh-huh.
And at that point, we weren't even a band per se. We were just like, "Hey, this seems to be working. Let's keep doing it."
Right.
um, so since then, we keep playing more and more. And one thing that we've noticed is that whenever we go somewhere and we step on stage or we go into a recording studio and we're about to play, people look at us and I could tell that they're skeptical.
Hmm.
And the way I interpret it is they're looking at us and thinking, "Who's the old guy and the Asian chick? And what the hell are they doing?" Uh, because we've had this experience when we went to record in Nashville. We go into the studio and people are just setting up. They barely notice us. They barely say hello. They're going about their business. Just another day for them. They're session musicians.
Hmm.
And then we start practicing as people are getting ready and we're just playing a song, and then all of a sudden the total atmosphere changes and they're like, "Oh, are you guys all right? Like, is the monitor sounding all right?" Like,
Yeah.
the whole attitude changes. And it's the same thing when we step on stage. Like, initially people are looking at us with quizzical looks, and then as soon as we start playing, we see the smiles on their faces, and it's like a 180, and it's pretty cool. And so we've come to embrace that I always feel like whatever makes us different can be either an advantage or a disadvantage depending on how we use it. So we
Exactly.
decided to use it as an advantage and lower the expectations and then exceed them.
You guys are smart.
Well, you gotta work smart, not hard. Well, you work hard too, but try to work smarter than harder.
Exactly. Yeah, I've kind of noticed that same thing too as we've been setting up, because we do like a lot of bars and in Indianapolis lately, like over the last few years, we've just kind of had this surge of breweries popping up, which is pretty
Oh,
cool. And so we'll play there a lot, and you can see like at first people are like, who are these two girls? What are they going to play? Like, is it going to be Indigo Girls all night because they see a female acoustic duo, and those that
yeah.
are our age that like can make that connection, like, oh, it's probably what it's going to sound like. And then we'll get into the set a little bit and we'll bust out some Snoop Dogg. And they're like, whoa, what just happened here? Like, these
I love
girls
that.
rock.
Yeah, I think part of what makes it exciting is when you have something unexpected, right? Like
Yeah.
if you were exactly Indigo Girls, why would you be there? They could just have Indigo Girls.
Right. And they would be way better. So I also want to talk too about how you have one of the things that I know that you guys have done is really kind of built a community around your music, especially like using hashtags. I know, Wine Wednesday seems to be working well for you. How did all of that come about?
Well, after we recorded our album, we were like, okay, so we need to launch it. How do we do that?
Yeah.
How do we get people to know that we exist and then know that we exist and check out our music? So we started doing a whole bunch of things, and they're all experiments, trying to
Oh,
figure out
yeah.
what works and what doesn't. So one of the things we did for Twitter was look at all the hashtags that happen every week
Mm-hmm.
and try to find one that we could relate to and that we could commit to doing every week. And Wine Wednesday was the one because we like wine. We're in California where there's a whole bunch of wineries that have amazing wines around. And so, I came up with the idea of doing something for Wine Wednesday, and I took it to George and I said, "Hey, what do you think about doing something Wine Wednesday?" He said, "Well, yeah, what do you think about pairing a wine with a song?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I like that." So we decided to do Wine Wednesday, and we did it as a live stream,
Mm-hmm.
and then we used the same thing to post on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube,
Yeah.
just to see, what gets the most response.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that the wineries are most active on Twitter and Instagram. So we've been focusing a little bit more on those two for the Wine Wednesday stuff, but we still post it everywhere. It's just we try to tailor it more to the audience that's responding to it.
Yeah.
So we've been doing it every week since the last week of January, I believe. And when we started, we had 9 Twitter followers.
Oh,
9.
wow.
And now I think we have, I can't remember, maybe 200 or so.
Nice.
So, it's not a huge number, but I'm pretty happy with the fact that we gained each of those like with our hard work.
Oh, yeah.
So, we've been putting out videos constantly. And I think one of the main reasons we did it was, as you said in many of your previous podcasts with your previous guests, being consistent is one of the key things to build a following, right?
Absolutely.
So Wine Wednesday is our commitment to doing at least a video every week. And, it's not going viral per se, but it is helping us build our network, and we're gaining followers every week, slowly but surely. And we're trying to improve our content as well. So that's for Wine Wednesday. And then another thing that we did for our gig was we partnered with a local education foundation.
Mm-hmm.
We love doing music, but we also love inspiring other people to do it and helping people do it. So one of the things that we do is partner with organizations that support music education. And when we did our launch, we partnered with a foundation there, and they said, "Sure, if you want to give us your money, we will help you promote your show."
Perfect.
And it worked out really well. So George and I gave our proceeds to the charity, but we got to fill the room, and they sent our show details to like 10,000 households in the area. So we still had to do a lot of marketing to get our own people to go, but extra people is extra people.
Exactly.
And we just got an email from the president of the foundation a few days ago, and she said, "I've been listening to your CD and I really like your music. Are you guys playing again anytime soon? Because I'd like to come."
Nice.
So, it's really encouraging to get things like that where it seems like the effort we've put in to build those relationships are paying off.
Well, and I love that too, because I think so much in this day and age that we're so focused on, how do I get Facebook likes and grow my Twitter following and Instagram? And, we focus so much on the online component of it that a lot of times I think we forget and kind of overlook these opportunities to partner with, basically create community partners in our own backyard.
Right. Yeah. Start local.
Yeah. And that's who actually is going to come to our gigs is those local people. So I love that you guys did that, and that you're obviously starting to see, sowing those seeds obviously is you're going to reap the benefits of that now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a slow growth, but I hope it's a sustainable one.
Well, and I know you guys had some crazy success on the iTunes chart as well. How did that business mindset come in to say, okay, we've got to leverage this and get as much out of that as we can? Yeah.
So as soon as we found out that we were featured, we didn't even understand what was going on at the time. Like the list just said it was bestsellers, and we were like, wait, are we actually selling records?
That's awesome.
Like, who buys records?
Yeah, exactly.
But we're like, hey, I don't care what it means. It says bestseller there. I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
So we sent an email to Ariel right away, and we're like, we're number 31. What can we do? And Ariel's like calm, and she's like, well, it's not that unusual for indie bands to chart nowadays because nobody buys records.
Wah, wah.
I know. She's like, I don't want to burst your bubble, but it's not as uncommon. I'm like, I don't care. Let's try to find, how can we leverage this? Because now you can say we're on the chart and people will pay more attention. So
right.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So we did that. And then we did another partnership with Hungry for Music, which will ship instruments to children who want to study music but cannot afford an instrument. And they'll do that worldwide. So on their website, they had, a little blurb about how much it costs to send instruments. So it would be like $30 would buy and ship a flute, $50 would buy and ship a guitar, and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so we partnered with them, and then we converted that to album sales. So we were like, 5 albums will ship a flute to a child, and 7 albums will get somebody a guitar. And we wanted to make it very specific so that people knew exactly when they're paying $9.99 to buy our album, how much of that is going to a charity. Because people don't know how iTunes works or how anything in the music industry works if they're not into that industry, right?
Yeah,
So we
exactly.
wanted to make sure that they knew the impact and that the impact was tangible and attainable. And I think their biggest goal there was $1,000 would ship 20 instruments to a community after school program. So we said, well, 143 albums would ship 20 instruments to an after school program. So, 143, it's a lot for an indie musician, but for people who have no idea how hard it is to sell records, like, oh, that's pretty feasible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we use different tactics like that, like making it tangible for people. And then, so we started out at 31. We posted on all our social media with a screenshot saying, hey, can you help us get to 20? And a few of our friends bought it, and soon we were 22, and they were like, oh my God, we're so close. Can you help us get the top 20? Then the next day, we're back to 27. We're like, oh
no. Yeah.
It was kind of up and down. And then we finally got to like 13, and we're like, oh my God, can we get the top 10? And, promote it again. And then we did. We got to top 10 on the Thursday, right before the next wave of stuff comes out on Friday. So that was amazing. Of course, we took 5 screenshots to make sure we didn't lose it.
Right. Yeah. That's great.
And then, we used that to get more stories. One of the things we got is the podcast with you, podcast with Bree. We got an article published on Hypebot. We got a guest post on CD Baby. We've had a lot of opportunities, but really it's about like finding, whenever something good happens, use it to get more stuff happening.
Well, and I love too that you tied in it's like buying this music, it's not just going to benefit you. I mean, yeah, it's great. If you love an artist, you totally want to help them reach a goal, but it's so much easier to press that buy button when you know that if you're passionate about music, that some kid in an after school program is going to get an instrument.
Right. And I think, we had very little time before the next week's releases were out. So we were really trying to maximize our impact within a week. And so how do you do that? Well, you send out an email blast and then you use Facebook ads. But how do you get people to click on your Facebook ads when they have no clue who you are and they really don't care if you're on the iTunes charts?
Yeah.
Right? So one way to do that is to promote something that they already care about. So hence the music program.
I love it. So something else that I wanted to make sure that we touched on, because I feel like I've seen a lot of, I don't know what the right word is. I've read a lot of things where it feels like to be a real musician, you've got to do music full time and not have a day job. And I feel like for a lot of us, I can't be the only one in this boat of, I love my day job. I love the people that I get to work with. And I wouldn't want to make the choice between both. Like, why can't we just do both and be happy with that?
Yep, totally. I totally agree with you. I think that, people who say that you have to be a full-time musician, I think that works for them. It doesn't mean that it works for everybody. If I think some people have really, truly one passion, and that's the one thing that they want to do, but not everybody's like that. Some people have 2 passions. Some people have 5. I mean, what's to limit us to one? And why do we have to pick one? I think there's actually a lot of benefits to having your day job, depending on your personality. And like for me, I find that having a day job helps me finance my music project, right? I get to go and pick a studio I want and pick the musicians I want and go in and get the record the way I hear it in my head. And that takes quite a lot of money to do. I mean, it's hard to raise that amount of money just doing music full time. And, the day job got me to do that faster than I would have if I was doing music full time. So that's one.
Yeah.
And tied to that, quality nowadays is key because everybody can record anywhere now. But for your music to actually stand a chance, I feel like it has to be really good quality.
Yes.
And I personally do not have the patience to learn how to use Pro Tools. So I'm just happy to go in and let somebody who knows what he's doing or she's doing record me and make me sound awesome.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So that's one. The other thing is, I think personality-wise, I'm an introvert, and I don't think that I would be really good at being a full-time musician at this point because I tried. When you start out being a full-time musician, you still have to have some sort of income coming in, right? You're not going to be starting off and say, okay, today I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to be a full-time musician, and tomorrow I'm going to be making enough to pay rent. That's not going to happen. I mean, it has to be a gradual thing, I think, for most people. But for me, I couldn't do any job that is customer facing. I tried doing retail for a little bit when I was in college, and I completely hated it. I couldn't do it. It's having to interact with people all day was very draining to me. And I would come home and all I want to do is crawl in my bed and go to bed and do nothing. Yeah. Whereas when I go to work in, an office and I don't have to talk to as many people, and I just go about creating stuff because I'm working in software. So I'm creating software. It's also a creative thing. And I come home and I'm ready to be the extrovert musician because I haven't talked to anybody all day.
Nice.
Because as a musician, you do have to go out and network and, be ready and in the mood to engage with people. And my day job allows me to do that when I'm doing music.
Yes.
So I think knowing what personality you are and what really keeps you motivated is a good place to start, because I think the main thing we have to think about is what will keep us inspired to keep creating music, right?
Oh, yeah.
For some people, it might be quitting the job and doing it full time and just diving in. For some people, that would just make them miserable and want to quit, like me. Yeah. So I think the focus is trying to figure out what will keep me going. And sometimes it's the day job and sometimes it's not. So just have to figure it out based on how you feel about it.
Yeah, and it's funny because I feel like I run hot and cold in cycles where there's sometimes I'm so focused on the day job because it's finally everything's clicking and it's going how it's supposed to go. And I might not pick up a guitar for weeks. And then there are other times when it's the creative faucet gets turned on somehow. And you're like, oh, I know I'm on a deadline and I've got to get this project turned around, but I just want to pick up my guitar and finish writing this song that's clanging around in my head.
Story of my life.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I remember when I was in college, it was every single time I had an exam, I would have an idea to write a song the night before. And I'm like, why?
Oh, no. I totally feel your pain on that.
And it was random. It was it's 3 a.m.
Yes.
I should either be sleeping or studying.
Yep.
But instead, I'm going to write a song.
Yeah. Yeah. That's usually when it comes knocking for me.
Yep.
Well, and something else that you mentioned that I want to go back and touch on is that you're an introvert. And
yes.
And so I feel like there's definitely something there in common for us because I'm the same way. Doing this podcast completely forced me out of my comfort zone, because then I was going to have conversations. And I found that at gigs, like I've been very fortunate in my career to play with lead singers that are super chatty and engaging, and man, they can talk anybody up and chat them up about anything. And I'm like, can I just stand on the corner or stand on the stage and smile and play guitar and tune my guitar on the break so I don't have to necessarily go out and engage with strangers that might be here? So how do you overcome that, like in a gig setting? Because I also feel like if somebody is, even if they're just here randomly, but you can tell when somebody's sticking around because they're digging what you're doing. And I feel like I should go out and talk to them and thank them. And especially if I know somebody has, arranged for a babysitter and like, this is their date night. How do you get yourself into that mode of, okay, I need to go out and be social now and kind of put the introvert away?
Yeah, it's definitely something that doesn't come naturally, but I think reminding myself that, hey, these people actually paid money to come here and listen to us. This is awesome. I need to know more about them.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely have a extrovert button that I press whenever I'm out there in a setting that requires networking. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, like if you see me at a party where I'm not doing anything music related, just a regular party, I would be the one person on the table sitting quietly, nodding and listening to people and just absorbing everything, Yeah. And then I'll maybe like make a comment or two, but I'm usually not the life of the party. That's just not me. But when I am on stage, it's funny. When I started, I didn't do any banter because I had seen a bunch of musicians banter too much. Mm-hmm. And I would just get impatient. I would like play the damn song. I mean, come on. I just want to hear the song, and I felt that people would want me to just play the song.
Right.
But I guess that's the introvert in me. It was just like, just get on with the music. Uh-huh. But most people want to know a little bit more. And I found that when you talk a little bit about the music or about what inspires you or something, people connect with it on a deeper level. Mm-hmm. So we've been trying to be more intentional about the banter. It's funny, after our show, we had some family over who came to see us, and somebody said, I really enjoyed the banter in between the songs and how you were talking about, how that song came about, or, little anecdotes that you guys were telling us about. Like, I thought that was really cool. I'm like, oh, guess people are appreciating the fact that we're trying to do more banter. That is great. We shall do more.
Yeah, I love that.
But it's definitely you kind of have to switch it on and be like, okay, time to be inspired to talk to people.
Right, exactly. And how do you feel that you guys go about, because I almost feel like with what, as I've become more aware of like trying to create an actual experience around what people are getting when they're sitting in the audience and watching us perform, what kind of experience are you trying to create?
For us, I think, number one, we like to play to a listening audience. Mm-hmm. So pretty much all the gigs that we've done, people are coming to listen to us play. We're not background music.
Nice.
And that's how we like to play. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I think when people come to our show, they feel like they're kind of transported into some other time. Mm-hmm. Because we play some jazz standards and our instrumentation is kind of jazzy, and it's not like what you would hear on the radio today. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of people aren't necessarily exposed to like the jazz sound, and they just relate that to an older time.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's pretty cool. Like people come in and they just forget about the outside world and enjoy the music and maybe have dinner and wine and stuff. So that's more or less the type of experience that we want our audience to have.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had very good feedback about the show.
Oh, I'm sure. It's got to be, I think it would also be nice for the venue.
Yeah. When we did our launch, the owner came back to us after the show and he said, whenever you guys are ready, just come back.
Nice. That's great feedback.
Like, yes.
Yeah. I always love it when like the manager or the owner is like, that was phenomenal. Please come back. Or when they like walk up to you with the calendar and they're like, okay, let's get another date on the books. Like that's the best feedback ever.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. And it was the first time we played there, and it was the first time we played in that city.
Oh, wow.
It's about 15, 20 miles from our house. So it's not too far, but it's far enough that we weren't sure how many people would actually go.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of marketing around it, and we partnered with the Education Foundation to get more people. And our show was like on a Thursday night. So, not the ideal night for people to go out, but we really wanted to be invited back to that venue. So we were like, okay, we got to make sure, because they said, usually we have a minimum of 65 people attending, but since it's your first time, we'll lower that minimum to 40. And 2 weeks before, we were like 14 tickets sold, and we're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Like, should we just buy the rest of the tickets ourselves? And when it came to like 2 days before, we had 87 tickets sold.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So yeah, it worked out.
Definitely. Well, and I think a lot of people too, sometimes bands don't necessarily think about the experience that they create for either the person that's booking that venue or the manager, what they have to be part of that experience too. And you have to be very aware of how you're engaging them in that as well.
Oh, absolutely. And we try to do that in everything. We try to put the other party first and try to put ourselves in their shoes and try to figure out, okay, what would they like about a band? Why would they want to book us, or why would they want to work with us? And actually, we started writing blog posts about these things that we've been doing, how we try to help other people help us, basically, try to make it as easy as possible for them to help us succeed. And yeah, so helping the venue organize it, we did a bunch of calls with the venue, with the sound guy. And after the show, we stuck around and we thanked all the staff, and we do that for the musicians too. Like we created charts for each one of them, and we created different set lists color coded with which instruments they're playing on which songs. And we just try to be pleasant to work with so that people want to invite us back.
That's awesome. I love the color coded set list, because if I do write a set list, it's like 15 minutes before we walk on stage. So fortunately, there are only two of us.
Yeah.
But I love that. I mean, I just feel like it's going that extra mile, because it obviously, like, just even from, a business and a leadership standpoint, it's like, oh, look, they really care. They want us to have a successful experience and be able to do our job to the best of our ability, which I think is just
Absolutely.
really cool.
Yeah.
All right, Sherry Lynn, thank you so much for recording this interview with me today and coming on the Brassy broadcast.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, wait, before we go, where can folks connect with you and make sure that they're checking out Wine Wednesday, and also read the blog post that you guys are doing? Because I was kind of scrolling around on your website and I was like, I'm totally going to have to go back and read a bunch of these. They're fantastic.
Thank you. I'm so glad you're enjoying them.
Oh, yeah.
You can find everything on our website, 23rdhour.com, 23rdhr.com. And you will find there our links to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Medium, where our blog posts will be, and I don't know, everywhere else.
Fantastic. And I will have links to all of that in the show notes. Thanks for listening. If you learned something or gained a little insight from this conversation, please tweet Sherry Lynn and let her know at 23rd Hour. And that's 23rd Hour all spelled out. Now, I'm not going to ask you to subscribe, rate, and review in iTunes because honestly, I think it's kind of a pain in the butt. My favorite way to show a podcast some love is to share it with my friends with a couple clicks of a button and then tag the show or the host on social media. If you're using the Apple Podcast Player, you know that little purple icon on your iPhone. Look for the 3 little dots on the right-hand side of your screen. Click on those and then select Share from the menu that pops up. I use the Pocket Cast podcast app for most of my podcast listening. It has those same 3 magical little dots that you can tap to bring up the menu so you can share. And even if you don't find this particular episode share-worthy, I'll bet you have another podcast that you totally love. So pay it forward and go share that one. Now spread some podcast love and get out in the world and do some good.